China's recent decision to halt the exports of 7 critical rare earth elements to the United States marks a significant escalation in the ongoing trade war between both countries. This move, which was announced earlier this week, directly impacts the supply chains for electric vehicles, semiconductors, advanced weapon systems, and renewable energy. By restricting access to these materials, China is leveraging its dominance in the global rare earths market. This is being seen as a geostrategic maneuver by China, which underscores the growing importance of rare earth mineral resources in the geopolitics of the 21st century. The Chinese Ministry of Commerce added dysprosium, terbium, lutetium, and 4 other rare earth elements to its restricted exports list. This effectively freezes shipments to the United States unless special licenses are granted by China's Ministry of Commerce. However, China's licensing system is still largely underdeveloped, and that creates great amount of uncertainty for industries that are reliant on these rare earth materials. China says it is putting in place a new regulatory system, but that is going to be time-consuming. This action by China follows decades of Chinese control over rare earth production and processing. Right now, China accounts for 60% of global rare earth extraction and nearly 90% of refining capacity. It is this which China is leveraging as an instrument of global geopolitics. Beijing's decision is being widely interpreted as a retaliation against American restrictions on semiconductor exports to China that have been put in place by the Trump administration. As Guillaume Pitron, who is the author of The Rare Metals War, noted in a recent piece, and I quote, "China is leveraging its control over rare earths just as the United States seeks to limit China's access to advanced semiconductor chips." Historically, China has weaponized rare earth exports during previous political disputes, such as the 2010 embargo against Japan over territorial tensions. This is when things came to a head over a bunch of islands in the East China Sea, which both countries claim as their own. Rare earth elements, or REEs, are a group of 17 metals which are critical to high-tech and green technologies. Key applications of rare earths include high-performance magnets for electric vehicles, wind turbines and hard drives, heat-resistant magnets for aerospace and defense weapon systems, camera lenses, hybrid car batteries, and petroleum refining. Despite their name, rare earths are not actually all that rare. They're abundant globally, but are environmentally destructive to extract and to refine. That is one factor which led Western countries to outsource production of rare earths to China starting in the 1980s. Today, these rare earths underpin $7 trillion in global economic output, and that drives the status of rare earths as geopolitical assets. They're not just economic assets anymore, they're also geopolitical instruments. And China has not hesitated from using or weaponizing rare earths for geopolitical reasons. China's rare earth dominance stems from a deliberate policy. Now, back in the 1980s, Deng Xiaoping, China's then leader, said this, that the Middle East has oil and China has rare earths. And this set the stage for state-backed consolidation and mining and refining of rare earths by China's SOEs, or state-owned enterprises. By the 2000s, China flooded the global markets with cheap rare earths, thereby bankrupting competitors like America's Mountain Pass mine. This strategy allowed China to control 85% of all processing capacity by 2024. That is despite the fact that China holds less than 40% of the global reserves of rare earths. But China uses rare earths as a weapon of diplomacy. In the past, it has used this leverage, including in 2010. At that time, Beijing had placed an embargo of rare earths against Japan during a maritime dispute, which led to a 10-fold price increase in the cost of smartphones, something that Japan could ill afford. Now, this entire territorial dispute was over a bunch of remote, uninhabited islands in the East China Sea. China then used it again in 2023 when it put in place export curbs on gallium and germanium during the US-China tech wars. It also led to a tit-for-tat by the then Biden administration, which made it much harder for Beijing to manufacture high-end semiconductor chips, which are critical for large computing and which are the mainstay now for artificial intelligence companies. The Trump administration faces urgent pressure to mitigate the supply chain vulnerabilities in the export of these rare earths. The immediate response from the Trump White House includes mulling a national security semiconductor tariff. President Trump has announced a separate investigation into semiconductor trade practices with a proposed tariff that is expected to be in the range of 25 to 30% in a bid to try and incentivize domestic production. He tweeted that he wants a complete investigation into the entire electronic supply chain of semiconductors that are coming into the United States. Some of America's biggest companies, Apple, Nvidia, Intel, all depend on semiconductor chips that are imported from China.
The tariffs will be in place in the not distant future because, as you know, like we did with steel, like we did with automobiles, like we did with aluminum, which are now fully on, we'll be doing that with semiconductors, with chips, and numerous other things. And that'll take place in the very near future.
It could also lead to stockpiling. Already we're seeing big companies like GM and Lockheed Martin who are racing to secure existing rare earth magnet inventories. They've got stockpile sizes that vary widely, but this is only something that bigger players can afford to do. The small businesses will get caught blindsided in this giant trade war. The only possible upside of these ongoing semiconductor wars and these rare earth export controls is the revival of domestic production in the United States. The US is reviving the Mountain Pass mine in California. It's also investing over $1 billion in Texas-based rare earth processing facilities. However, there are multiple challenges. There is still a massive processing gap. The United States lacks China's advanced refining infrastructure. 100% of the mined rare earths are still sent to China for processing. Also, there's the question of time lag. Building an independent supply chain could take anywhere between 5 to even 10 years, risking short-term disruptions in critical sectors like defense, automotive, smartphones, and high-end renewables. While the European Union and Australia are accelerating rare earth mining projects, these initiatives face environmental opposition as well as technical hurdles in those respective countries. As Philip Andrew Speed of the Oxford Institute for Energy Studies has warned, no country can replicate China's refining ecosystem overnight. China's rare earth embargo exemplifies the fusion of economic statecraft and resource nationalism, and it comes at a time of great power rivalry between Washington and Beijing. For the United States, achieving rare earth mineral independence will require unprecedented private and public sector partnership. It will also mean trade alliances with Australia, Japan, India, and even breakthroughs in recycling technology. As these policies unfold over a period of time, the electronics industry worldwide must brace for air turbulence ahead. The rush for rare earths can be called the new gold rush or even the race to secure the oil of the 21st century. America won the previous gold rush and the previous oil rush. Can it win, though, the rush for rare earths?